Hey team, I'm tired. It's Thursday today. For the past week, I've just had a pretty big week for work. Last night I had a director's session with Bumble, the dating app, for one of their new campaigns. This morning I had another directed, and then earlier in the week I was also producing these guided meditations.
With each inhale, feel the air fill your lungs. With each exhale.
And now I just kind of want to sit down and read a book, and I don't want a challenge or a specific video theme to be dictating it. I truly just want to sit down and mood read. Last night I started Where the Crawdads Sing. I'm 138 pages in at the moment. So yes, there's no driving storyline or goal for this video other than to relax and read Where the Crawdads Sing and whatever else I read next. So when I started this book yesterday, honestly it took me until probably 70 to 80 pages in to get into it. I'm a little bit late to this book, so if you don't know what it is, it's a mix of a thriller, coming of age, there's a little bit of a murder mystery in it, but you basically follow the perspective of Kaya, who is a marsh girl on the North Carolina coast. The setting starts in the 50s and kind of jumps between that and 1969, which is when the murder occurred. And so far we've basically just been introduced to not only Kaya, but her way of life and her kind of familial situation. The book opens with Kaya, who is, I believe, about 4 or 5 years old at the start, and her mum kind of just up and leaves and doesn't come back. Her and her family, or kind of what's left of it, her dad and her brother, and he leaves pretty much instantly as well, live on a shack in the marshes, in the wetlands. The book is definitely giving a wrong side of the tracks, kind of. Kaya doesn't know how to read. She never goes to school. The first time she tries, she gets laughed at because, she doesn't know how to spell dog. She spelt it God, G-O-D. But despite not being literate or book smart, to use that term, she is completely marsh smart. She knows about the tides, every animal, tracks, how to run around without leaving footprints. She is so one with the nature around her. Long story short, she is living a life where the only person she really can depend on is herself. Her mum's up and gone, her dad is very unreliable and a bit of a slave to the drink, so he's in and out of the picture, and for the most part she is completely self-reliant, catching mussels to sell to the local guy who sells bait. And so now that we are 138 pages in, which is about the 40-something% mark, I am very into it now, and I'm starting to see where this is going in terms of genre. We are starting to really investigate this murder that's occurred in 1969. We're still jumping back to the late 50s as she's growing up, and you're getting a better understanding of how she has become who she is and the prejudice that the town has against her and her family, and kind of her kind in general. Her kind being, they refer to it as white swamp trash, to give you an idea. I'm liking it, I'm liking our characters, and I am loving the writing. The writing is just beautiful, honestly. I just found a great line that I think is good to kind of sum up what I was saying before when I was trying badly to explain the concept of the book to you. But on the idea of her being shut off from the town and being referred to as swamp trash, there's just a lot of gossip going around. She's meeting with someone who's from the town, someone quote unquote normal society, and he points out a shell, and she says, oh, it's an ornate scallop, Pecten ornatus. He stared at her. Of all the gossip, no one ever mentioned that the marsh girl, the girl who couldn't spell dog, knew the Latin names of shells, where they occurred, and why. Yeah, that sums it up pretty well. I'm now up to chapter 30, which is page 210. This is written so beautifully. It's a little bit I wouldn't say genre bending, because it's not as if it's pretending to only be a thriller, or a murder mystery rather. It's probably weighted more in the coming of age genre. The murder mystery isn't really forefront for the majority of the beginning of the book. And honestly, just a love letter to nature. The way that this author, Delia Owens, has written this, there's a little bit at the beginning, just giving a little bit of info on her. She's the co-author of 3 internationally best-selling non-fiction books about her life as a wildlife scientist in Africa. She has a BS in zoology and a PhD in animal behavior. And this is her first novel. This is her debut fiction novel. And the way that she uses nature to tell the story is so beautiful. She's obviously knows her stuff. Is obviously a beautiful writer as well, and definitely a fan of poetry from what I can gather. There are some lines in this where it's just like, you just take a step back and go, whew, like that was nice. Like, there's a lot of lines in this book where she's used the imagery and the practices of nature and what nature does naturally to tell the story, or to add a little bit more. Sometimes she'll use an occurrence in nature, for example, like the mating habits of a certain animal. She allows that to kind of make the statement for her. As a reader, it kind of guides you and goes like, oh, like that's exactly what's happening in this human relationship. So I'm really liking that. But overall, it's just, yeah, it is really beautiful. One of those books where I don't really need there to be some big bang and a crash. It's just really nice to read. Despite having elements of a murder mystery to it, I kind of don't give a shit about that. And I mean that in a good way. I'm more interested in the characters. And then every now and then when we jump ahead to 1969 when this murder is committed, I'm kind of reminded, I'm like, oh, that's right, like we're involved with this as well. But I'm not bored. I just finished Crawdads. That was lovely. That was a beautiful read. How do you sum that book up? It was a beautiful story. That love, it was educational for the spirit at times, definitely in a biology sense. As I said before about the author absolutely knowing her stuff based on what it says in the beginning, it was very refreshing and satisfying to read a book from an author who not only understands the context that she's talking about, for example, like the wild, but that she also sees the beauty in it. She's a bit of a poet herself, and it was just beautiful. I give this a 4.5, a good 4.5. It's definitely going to stay with me for a while, and I hope I don't forget this book because this was really, really nice. I would definitely recommend it. And the New York Times book review, on the back here, this quote. It says, painfully beautiful. At once a murder mystery, a coming-of-age narrative, and a celebration of nature. And I think that really sums it up. It was a beautiful book. An astonishing debut. Yep, I agree, people. I agree, People magazine. That's actually funny if you don't know that People is a publication. It's like an astonishing debut. Who said that? People? People say it's an astonishing debut. What's your evidence? Just trust me, bro. Look at these. I got them at Aldi today. Oh, I would start talking to you as the kettle starts to boil. I guess we'll wait. I was at Aldi today and they had these paint by number kits for like $7 or something, $7.99. So I got this one of a racing car and then this one of giraffe, and James and I are gonna have some activities. I love that humanity is like, that's how you can tell something's going wrong in the system for humanity. We're regressing to things that used to give us pleasure as children. Is that a sign that something's going wrong? It definitely feels like it's connected. the economy these days and how everything is more expensive, and yet these childhood practices like coloring in, paint by numbers, craft in general is being marketed to adults as like an anti-anxiety thing. And it works, obviously, and it's great, nothing against it. I just think it's got to be connected, right? Strawberry, raspberry, and loganberry. So once I finished the Crawdads, I had the unforgiving task of picking what book to read next. I think the word unforgiving was a little bit hyperbolic there. But I did, oh, by the way, I was last reading Phantasma, which I give you a little too long didn't read review here. I really loved the first half. I was super engrossed. The writing was just right for me to be very invested in it, and I really loved the trials. Like I didn't find it hard at all to immerse myself in that book. Alas, it's marketed as a romantasy, and I think I pretended I didn't see that, because about 60 to 70% of the way through I got unbelievably bored with back-to-back sex scenes and proclamations of love between people who had known each other for 4 days. I did really like it though. I think if you like romantasy and your heart is still beating, unlike mine, you'd love this. It's good. I didn't think it was a bad book. I'm just justifying why it ended up getting a 3 from me. If you saw me rate it as a 3 on Goodreads and you were like, I wonder why. There's your answer. But we did, that's what I was doing. I was going to tell you what we're reading next. I'll show you. Yes, I'm excited. Why did I pick this book next? You know when you get a feeling that you're on a good run? I usually get this with books. I go like, I'll read one book and I'm like, yeah, that was good. And then I get an instant like, I want to read that one next. Or like you know your brain is in a genre. And I'm feeling like my brain it wants some historical fiction / good writing. And I know this is going to be good. I read enough of the blurb to confirm that I see why this gets not compared to, but sitting in a similar place to The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna because of the plot, because it's about, I think, a couple of kids in France during the German occupation in World War II. I could have just made that up. I didn't read the blurb properly. I read like keywords, children, France, German occupation, and I was like, yes. I just read like the first few chapters. I have a serious question. When you put your pajamas on, like setting the scene for you, I've just had a shower, I've put my pajamas on. Do you put deodorant on in this situation before you go to bed? I'm not telling you if I do or don't. I just need to know a general consensus, because now all of a sudden I have no idea. The first few chapters, I suppose they weren't really chapters. I think they were like prologues, but it was basically like multiple different short chapters of POVs of this city as it begins to be bombed, and definitely set the scene moving forward. Good morning. I just finished my coffee. Today, I'm making an executive decision, is a day off. I will never get over the luxury of being able to do that, like being self-employed. But I don't have anything that I desperately need to do today. There's no deadlines. Anything that I do today would be just like the rise and grind mindset, if that makes sense. Like anything I do today would just be like extracurricular stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I suppose I could work on editing a video, or I could work on like voiceover demos or something, but my heart isn't in it. Do you know what I mean? Like I desperately, if I'm gonna do stuff like that, I desperately need my brain to be like fully committed and like creative juices flowing. And I'm not feeling that today. God, that smells so fucking nice. I'm so pissed off. So my very first perfume, my dad got me a Lola by Marc Jacobs. It was the one in the flower, you know, the one. And I loved it so much. And I remember they discontinued it. I was at a point in my life where I was like, well, that, you know what, like I'm an adult now, like I should probably upgrade to like an adult fragrance. This was never not an adult fragrance. For some reason in my brain, I just like got it into my head that I needed something else. Naturally, I have tried so many other perfumes, and I don't know if it's the nostalgia factor, but every time I smell this perfume, I am like, that's one of the nicest perfumes I've ever smelled in my life. And they've discontinued it. So I'll probably have to find a dupe. But this is a body lotion that like, because they used to come in like gift boxes when my dad would buy me. He would buy me the perfume like every Christmas. Every like 2 Christmases he'd get me a new bottle. And they came in these like gift boxes. So this is, I wanted, you know, to hazard a guess, this hand lotion is probably like 6 years old, to be honest, at the very least. But I have a really weird thing with like gift boxes. Like I don't want to use them, I want to save them because they feel special. And to be honest, I am glad that I saved it because this is a nice treat to have on my desk. Anyway, where was I? So I'm randomly like searching knitting tools and like where I can go in Melbourne to buy like yarn and stuff. Honestly, for the past like month or two, here and there, I've been getting an itch to like knit. I don't know why, I'm getting that primal itch. So I'm looking forward to an afternoon where I'm just like listening to an audiobook and hopefully, if we can rub these 7 brain cells together, making a vest or something. Okay, I'm back. The first thing I'm showing you is this sandwich. I took a bite out of it on the way home because I'm so hungry. Prosciutto and mozzarella, and it looks so fucking good. We've also got 2 separate pattern books, one for adults and then one for children, because I really want to make that for my boyfriend's nephew. Needles, crochet, wool, and then just like some of this to practice on. I'm hungry. Now I'm making a scarf. And I've been watching the H3 podcast, as I said. Honestly, like I did want to listen to the audiobook for All the Light We Cannot See, and I absolutely will tonight. I love putting the H3 podcast on during the day. I don't really listen to that many podcasts anymore because I edit so many for work that I just like, leisure time for me is very rarely like listening to something because it's what I do for work. I feel like I have to bring this up every now and then because people are always saying like, you should listen to the audiobook, and I'm like, 100% audiobooks are amazing, and I will be listening to the audiobook for this one because I've been knitting, but it's not really leisure for me given that like 8 hours a day I'm working with audio. Like I love to read a book and look at words, but when I'm doing something like this, 100% I'll listen to the audiobook. But this afternoon I was just like, fuck it, I just want to listen to the H3 podcast. They've been watching the Twilight series. It's just so much fun. I stayed up till 4:30 in the morning last night knitting. I'm pretty much almost done with my scarf. And I also started making some patches because I want to make a blanket. Yeah, once I got into bed and I saw the time, I was like, holy shit. And I checked how far I got through in the audiobook and I was up to like 50 something percent, which told me that I listened to about 40% of this book so far on an audiobook, which is probably the most I've ever done that, maybe. The book is good. I am liking it. I think the beginning was very slow though. I think it, you know, there's a case to be made that it needed to be that slow. I feel like it picked up somewhere like at the 48%, 45%, 50% mark. It seriously picked up and like ran away. And now it's very enjoyable. So I am liking the book. It is good. Not the biggest fan of the audiobook though. I don't think I'm crazy about the performance. No hate to that voice artist, it's personal preference at the end of the day. I'm just finding the rhythm and the pacing of the way that it's being read is a bit weird to me. So now I'm having my coffee. I'm not even telling you what time it is today that I woke up. So honestly, I think I'm gonna have my coffee, have a shower, give the place a light tidy up, and keep knitting lol. Keep knitting LMFAO. Guys, I feel extremely cute right now. Whoa. I'm obsessed with this skirt. I got this skirt from Kmart. which is like Target in Australia, except our Target is shit, we have Kmart. It cost me like $15, I think. I get complimented on it. People are like, oh my God, I love your skirt, where did you get it? And I'm like, Kmart. I got it from Kmart, $15, go get yourself one. The best thing about taking yesterday off is that I've got that feeling right now that it's Sunday, but it's only Saturday. Honestly, I think I'm gonna I couldn't get over how cozy the vibes were last night with the audiobook, even though I wasn't a massive fan of the actual audiobook itself. Also, I think the production's really messy. Like, I know that sounds really like wanky, but I mean, like that's my job. Like I produce audiobooks, and if I voice an audiobook, I'm also producing it. So like, what I mean by that is like making sure the pacing is right, like with pauses, making sure what the beginning of words aren't cut off. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I'll give you an example of what I mean. Like I'll edit this video to show you what I mean. So let's say my next sentence is the start of a paragraph. Where Tom went, nobody knows. You see what I mean? It's like every time it happens, I'm like, it's jarring and I'm removed from the audiobook. And maybe that's just because I am a stickler for this kind of stuff because it's my job. Probably no one else cares, probably. But also at the same time, I'm like, it just feels lazy. I kind of wish the narrator was younger. I don't know. I think they could have put more effort into this audiobook given that it's such a big book. What does it say on the front? It's like over 10 million copies sold worldwide. That's a big bestseller. I think they could have got a boy and a girl to narrate this, and maybe both of them could have been a little bit younger. I think the current narrator sounds like she's in her like 50s, 60s. She's a mature age woman. This woman her voice sounds middle-aged, and it just doesn't feel right for the story, given that both of our main characters are still under the age of 20. I don't know. Anyway, I'm gonna enjoy the sunshine and keep listening to the audiobook and keep knitting my squares on the balcony. What a great Saturday. I am 83% through All the Light We Cannot See. Listened to a lot of this audiobook, like probably close to 50% of it, of what I've read kind of thing. So like I've only read 30% of it on the Kindle. I feel like the audiobook has made me feel like somewhat disconnected to the book, and this is another reason why I'm not like a big audiobook listener. I feel like it's way too easy when you're listening to an audiobook to get distracted doing something and miss a line or two or 3 or 10, and then you tune in again in your brain after like 15 seconds and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? What I'm noticing is the equivalent for that in reading is just skipping a couple of pages and then getting to, you know, the next page and being like, I don't really know what's going on here, but you know, we'll carry on. At the moment, I'm like, I like the book, but I've had to stop listening to the audiobook and like just read it, because when I'm listening to the audiobook, I just feel a little bit detached from it. And then when I'm reading it, I'm back in it. Like every time I pick up my Kindle, I'm like, yeah, this is good. I'm really enjoying this. And the chapters fly by. I think I'm just not a massive fan of the performance of the audiobook. No hate to that voice artist. I couldn't listen to it anymore. It wasn't bad. It just like, for some reason, I'm not sure why, I wasn't feeling that engaged with it. I think that's probably the best word to use. But we're 80% through it now, and I don't know, I'm really interested to see like how it wraps up for sure. But I'm not entirely sure where this sits for me in terms of like how much I like it. What good things can I say about it? The split POVs are good, and the story overall is like pretty enjoyable. To be honest, I'm a little sad that the audiobook isn't doing it for me, because I really do want to continue doing the paint by numbers. James and I started. Oh my god, that was so ambitious doing paint. Here, let me show you. So I bought these paint by number sets. You saw I showed it to you earlier. This is actually a great reference. So this is what it is without any paint on it. And you can see it's incredibly intricate. I think I started doing it at like 7 p.m. last night. We had dinner, and then we sat down to do some paint by numbers, do some arts and crafts, if you will, at the ripe old age of 27. I think it was about 11 o'clock at night, if not midnight. I'm not 100% on what time it was. What I am sure of is that I only managed to do this much. It was way too ambitious for me to assume that this was just going to be like a little Saturday afternoon activity. Let's do a paint by numbers, as in let's sit down and complete it in one session. So that's why I'm a little bit upset that the audiobook isn't slapping for me, because I would love to just keep doing this and keep coloring in my giraffes. I finished All the Light We Cannot See, and frustratingly, it's not standing out for me at all. Which is just one of those things that it's like a weird feeling you get when you finish a book that everyone else loved, and you're like, yeah, it was good. No, I do have thoughts, and oh, look at me, fucking H3 top fan apparently. So I did enjoy it. I did really enjoy it. I finished it hours ago. Like, I've had time to sit with it. I've been watching podcasts and finishing up washing and just classic like Sunday stuff. And so I have been thinking about it, and while I enjoyed reading it, it was kind of just, it doesn't stand out to me, that's all. At the moment, it's a 3.5 for me. I don't know why, but for some reason I really want to reread this book. Okay, so sure, I've got some theories on why. I think one of them is because I listened to so much of this book as an audiobook and I wasn't really vibing the audiobook. The best way I can describe that is that every time I read on my Kindle, I would get so much more enjoyment and just so much more in general out of that reading session than I would if I listened to like 3 hours of it on the audiobook. I don't know why. I've never had that feeling before, like finishing a book and wanting to reread it because you don't think you enjoyed it enough. And by the way, this isn't me getting self-conscious and pandering just because the general consensus of people like this book. This is because I was reading it and I was like, I'm really enjoying this. Like, I like the concept, I like where it's going, but like maybe it's the writing, maybe it was because of my disorganized listening experience, whatever. I don't know how to explain it, guys. I've been sitting in front of this camera yapping my head off for 15 minutes. And I don't think we've gotten anywhere. Maybe I'll come back to you tomorrow. Okay, good morning. Oh, big stretch. Yeah, I sat with it overnight and unfortunately it does sit at a 3.5 for me. I think that's kind of where my entertainment value was. I wish I liked it more, for sure. And it had all the elements of a story that I would like more. It gave me the Nightingale vibes at times, and I think, to be honest, like of the two, the Nightingale is probably, like, it's a lot better in my opinion. I think it's the writing style. I think for whatever reason, this writing style, which when I first started reading it, I was like, yeah, this is nice, I like this. It didn't do exactly what I needed it to do. And it's so funny about, you know, reading. Like, there is no one size fits all, and it can be a little bit Goldilocks sometimes. I think I might reread it in the future and give it another shot because I did want to like it more, and I think I missed some stuff. Like, I just think because of the audiobook thing, I didn't give that book my full attention at times. But one of the reasons why, like, this morning I'm way more comfortable saying it's a 3.5 for me is because I started A Gentleman in Moscow, or The Gentleman in Moscow, I can't remember the name, but I started that last night and I got like 20% through, and I'm really liking that. And I think sometimes you need to read a book straight away to be able to discern, like, it's not me, it was the book kind of thing. That is the end of this week's vlog. I will see you guys in a few days for my October wrap up. If you haven't and you feel so inclined, I would love it if you subscribe, smash that like button. It is Monday morning now, so starting a new week, no doubt another busy one. But I'm really liking The Gentleman of Moscow, Moscow with one gentleman. So I will let you know how that one goes in a few days. Bye.